All right, this is the Genius 180-day review video series. Next section is on the Genius DAO. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for checking it out. DAO. DAO stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. Think about it like government on a smart contract. Now, what's cool about government or governance or social operations being on a smart contract is that the rules are followed. The rules are followed. You're not sitting there trusting some person's going to do what's supposed to be done. You're not trusting that other people are just sitting around looking out for their own best interests instead of yours like they promised to. So DAOs are pretty great. Now, Genius has something called a grantor. And this grantor runs certain functions. But when it comes to governance, that's huge. And Genius has a very bright future. I know people want to get into certain tokens and coins because they want to get rich now. But Genius, with the utility that it can bring to the world, with the fact that Genius's whole goal is to drive revenue and give you a piece of that ecosystem, Genius is something you don't want to ignore. So tell your friends, be like, hey, don't ignore this. This thing's pretty cool. About, I think, 6 months before Genius was released, people that were working on a governance token came to me to see some of my ideas on things, and we've been talking since. Now, some governance tokens that are already out there, for example, Cult, as in C-U-L-T, and Revolt, all that stuff, and also Dash. Dash was the first governance token. It had its own treasury, and it had ways for people to make proposals and to vote on things. Now, this is kind of cool because with governance tokens, people can step up, pool their funds to do amazing things for society and do amazing things for, let's say, the Genius token. Well, let me show you some stuff here on that. First is earlier, remember the whole national interest part? Like when it comes to what brings value to a token or a cryptocurrency, one of the key metrics that I've always looked at was, is there national interest? Right? And when there's national interest in a token, this is extremely valuable. There are a lot of resources behind nations. There's a lot of adoption behind nations. Nations lead people to new technologies. Nations lead people to new ways of doing things. Kind of cool. And also remember this whole 444 thing. So the Genius DAO, one thing I can tell you, I'll tell you what, there's like a quote coming from it that's pretty cool. But here, while working on Genius and working on like consulting with the Genius DAO, it was brought to our attention that 44444, in the Chinese culture, 4 means death. The word is yes, I just did a sound, and that sound means death in Chinese. I guess you could say death of the old way, in with the new. I don't know. But someone pointed out you have the comma in between 4,000. You change it to a multiplication sign, and then 4 times 444 equals 1776. Now, I'm not like a huge numerology kind of a person, but I thought that was really interesting, like a very interesting coincidence. And an interesting coincidence that, well, with the Genius DAO, the purpose of it really is to bring greater freedom. And the purpose of cryptocurrency in general is also to bring greater freedom. You see, people don't realize that they're being financially censored every day. So certain products are being kept from people to help other businesses. And this isn't fair to humanity. It has slowed humanity down for a long time just to help really crappy businesses out there that just couldn't stand the idea of not being a business anymore. Couldn't stand the idea of something better coming along. Well, that's not fair to you, and that's not fair to anyone else. All right, this Genius DAO. Think of it like a voting thing, right? It's pretty significant. And here I want to tell you about the significance of it. Because this is something that we can see 6 months from now. This is something we can see 12 months from now. I really don't know. There's a terminal solution to proof of stake Sybil attacks. Proof of stake, for people in the blockchain world, proof of stake has some issues, has some major issues. And those issues have been taken care of for the most part. Because the core issue is something called the Sybil attack. And that is where that is where there's really nothing in the protocol that stops someone from creating unlimited accounts, such as with Zen crypto or such as with Bitcoin. And when you have these unlimited accounts, if you use these accounts as voting, like one account can make a vote for something to happen, you have a problem with your voting. And that problem is, if we're tallying votes by count and the vote that gets the most counts wins, really the winner is not what everybody wanted or voted because they wanted it. The winner ends up to be, how do you say it? The winner ends up to be who could create the most accounts. There's also another problem called the golden rule, and that's whoever has the gold makes the rules. It's like an old kind of joke, I guess, but an old serious political thing. And this is where the richest become the rulers. So if you have, if you make a system where the accounts with the most tokens, like those accounts are voting, and they have the most weight, then they become the winners. And that's true today when it comes to influence, such as people getting all upset about Elon Musk buying Twitter and then Elon Musk getting involved in other things. People are a little upset about it because people understand that there's something called a golden rule. But by the way, the Genius DAO, what's meant by terminal solution is that the Genius DAO, it ends this problem entirely. It ends these problems. And these are pretty significant problems throughout all of humanity. Heck, the Genius smart contract itself solves massive problems that have been around from all of humanity. Financial problems, problems with like wealth representation or value representation, problems with, hey, there's stagnant like monies. How do we make this stagnant monies worth more? Or how do we preserve that value instead of the value dying and going away? Preserve that value and or grow it. Those have been huge problems that governments, financial institutions, international banks have been wanting to solve for a long time. Well, when it comes to the banks, maybe not wanting to solve, but wanting to siphon money from others. But this is a true problem in the heart of humanity as far as our civilization goes, or as far as this current Earth civilization goes. Well, Ethereum and Dash, they attempted to solve this for proof of stake, meaning proof that you have monies that are staked in the system that are being set aside just for this voting. Dash kind of did, Ethereum did a little bit better, but with Ethereum's proof of stake, one of the solutions that many tokens have come out with is, okay, if you're going to be somebody who is going to vote and you're going to have a vote, or you're going to validate certain blocks, or validate or censor, I should say, you need a certain amount of money to do that. You need a certain amount of wealth compared to everyone else. Well, this ends up pricing out small accounts. Yeah. So it's kind of effective, but the people who have real attention and interest in the system, they end up getting discarded. That's very unhealthy for Ethereum because these people shouldn't be discarded, really. These people are important to Ethereum's success, right? So these proof of stake systems where their voting and their validation has to do with the fact that they have a certain level of wealth, it doesn't work. Or it won't work long term. It's going to eventually have to change. There's another thing called DPoS. It kind of solves Ethereum's problem, or not just Ethereum's problem, but many others. And DPoS stands for Delegated Proof of Stake. What that means is you have these many different accounts, and then all of the small accounts that were once priced out, that were insignificant to vote or validate, or to say what is true, or to say what's going on, those small accounts, they can delegate their wealth to some other accounts that they believe in. Kind of like, hey, I vote you to be my representative. That's what delegated proof of stake is. And that was introduced with things like, I think Steam introduced it. I don't think it was BitShares, but if I'm really that rusty with BitShares, I shouldn't be. I should know that. But no, I think Steam introduced that. And EOS and the WAX protocol, which uses it uses delegated proof of stake. Pulse chain, well, the idea of Pulse chain was to use delegated proof of stake. I don't know if it actually does anymore. I needed to look into that. Because after all, lots of things changed about Pulse chain suddenly. maybe so that Pulse Chain could be released sooner. But delegated proof of stake does not solve the rich or the rulers problem. It doesn't really solve. It's a pretty good solution for the Sybil attack. Actually, it's an excellent solution for the Sybil attack, and it works in the real world. Works in the real world of like larger businesses such as the Major League Baseball, Capcom, the video game company. They all work with the WAX protocol, and we know it works because there's significant money in there. Yet this delegated proof of stake system is used to manage the whole like universe of the WAX protocol. By the way, WAX is like one of the kings of the NFT world. Kind of interesting information. And Genius on WAX? I don't know. But delegated proof of stake, it doesn't solve the whole rich or rulers thing. It doesn't solve the golden rule, which is kind of problematic. But what you should all know about the Genius DAO, really, as information becomes available, I mean, there's a lot of information that I was asked not to share, and it makes sense because a lot of the information keeps changing. There's a lot of research going on there, and implementation, design documents that I've checked out, and to be frank, there's a lot of things in governance for society that I don't understand. Like I truly don't believe that a justice system should be around. It's too easy to abuse, and also even voting and presidents and etc. There's inherent problems, and I don't know the solution. All I know is attention and intention is very important in our world and has quite a function. But here, how to prepare for this? I mean, this is something that I'm very interested in. I want to check out. It's teaching me a lot. Well, for one, you want a Genius NFT. The more rare, the better. So remember that Genius NFTs have different rarities, and the more rare, the better. Another way to prepare is the Genius miners that you have. You want one of your miners per account. You want it to have a strong principal weight. What that means is your miner, its weight is how big the miner is relative to all other miners in the system, including the spam miners and including the whale miners, the really huge Genius miners, the miners that encapsulate a large amount of Genius shares. So the weighting system is numbered between 0 and 2, by the way. If your number is 1 or close to 1, it means you have the average sized miner. And for any of you engineers out there, you're probably thinking, average calculations? That's impossible to do inexpensively on something like Solidity. But no, there's some pretty cool innovation that Genius did, the implementers did, some amazing innovation. So anyways, if you want your weight to be 1, but the highest your weight can be is 2, and the only people who can have a weight of 2 are the biggest whales. If your weight is 0.1 or 0.0001, you probably have a dust amount of Genius that nobody cares about. But so the lesson here is to prepare, you're going to want a large Genius miner. You're going to want it to have as much IQ shares as possible. All right, and that's it for this Genius DAO section. I hope you found this interesting. What we have next is, on this video series, is the final chapter. Chapter 4 has 4 pieces. And the first thing it starts off with is, well, 180 days of Genius has passed, and therefore, we looked into the past of Genius, we reviewed it, we looked into the present, the near future that is going on, and the distant future. But what about today? What about now? And that's what this next series focuses on. For example, one of the things to do now is for everybody who partook in the Genius sacrifice, all sacrifice participants, there's a good chunk of them who have not claimed their sacrifice tokens. And you know what? There is a reward for claiming it on their behalf. We'll talk more about that in the next video series. Hope you enjoyed this. Remember, give these videos a like, subscribe. It helps a ton. It helps to allow others to hear about these cool innovations going into the DeFi space. And thank you. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.